of the Vacant Immigration Law and Policy Program here at the James Rogers College of Law and the Bacon Institute Center for the U.S. and Mexico at Rice University. I'd like to welcome all of you. We have a wonderful group of people in the students and community members and faculty members here in the room, and we've got the same on Zoom. So I appreciate your participating. And our topic today is U.S. immigration law and policy as it relates to employers, workers, and the U.S. economy. Before we start, I want to thank the Baker Institute at Rice University for its financial sponsorship of this event, and also our fantastic law clinic administrators, Karen Lee Taylor and Nina Mendez, for handling the logistics of today's event, and the law students who have agreed to help in various ways. Julia, is it Guay? Yeah. Julia Guay, Megan Sturr, and Valeria Candelis. So thanks, guys. It takes a lot of people to put on an event. Some quick preliminary notes. First, I want you to know that we are recording this event to post it to our website. And I don't know if we're going to get that camera going or not, but if we do, when you raise your hand to ask a question, you're basically agreeing to be on camera. If you don't and have your voice and video, on camera posted to the website, if that's not okay with you, then there are note cards to put a question on, and if you waive it, I will forget it and read your question. So as to the structure, our two panelists, and please have a seat. Please have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Our two panelists will take turns presenting on a few topics, and I'm going to try to keep us on track time-wise so that we can conclude the formal presentation by 1:05 and have plenty of time for questions. We are going until 1:20 this afternoon, and we'll take questions both in person and from the chat, which Julia will monitor. So first, I want to welcome our speakers. Jose Ivan Rodriguez is an economist based at the Baker Institute Center for the U.S. and Mexico at Rice University in Houston. He has a bachelor's degree in economics from the Universidad de las Americas in Mexico, and a master's and a PhD in economics from the University of Colorado, Boulder. His research focuses on international trade, migration, environmental economics, and economic growth. And he's taught classes and seminars at various universities in the U.S. and in Mexico on these topics. He has a lot of publications on them as well, including the many research briefings that you can find on the Baker Institute's website. Before this, Dr. Rodriguez Sanchez was a research associate for the Hunt Institute at the University of Texas in El Paso. He studied the energy and water markets of the Paso del Norte region, which is the region encompassing El Paso, Texas, and Ciudad Juárez in Chihuahua, Mexico. He also worked as Deputy Director in Environmental Economics at the National Institute on Ecology and Climate Change in Mexico, where he analyzed environmental problems in Mexico and proposed public policy solutions. Jose Vazquez has been an immigration attorney in Tucson since 2011, handling a range of immigration issues, including employment-based visas. He is listed in the best lawyers in America for immigration law, as one of the top 5% of practitioners. He's active in the Arizona chapter of the American Immigration Lawyers Association and was at one point chair of the chapter. He's also served on the National Board of Governors for AILA. Mr. Vazquez, before becoming an immigration attorney, worked as a felony prosecutor, first in Santa Cruz County and then in Pima County. Significantly, he is a graduate of this law school. So please join me in welcoming our two panelists. Let me just show you here quickly the list of topics we're going to cover. labor shortages and their economic consequences, the U.S. system for employment-based immigration, which Ms. Vazquez will cover, some myths about immigrants and the economy, problems with the system, and then proposed solutions. So I'm going to give it to Dr. Sanchez? Yes. Mess up your last name.
Don't worry.
Take it away.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy for being here today with Jose and Lynn to this panel, talking about an important issue in the U.S. economy, labor shortages. And I think that the most important part is that we don't understand that we have a labor shortage in the U.S. And secondly, we don't understand the importance of immigrants to the U.S. economy. So there are a lot of fake news on immigrants, and I want to point out with data about that. So first, labor shortages. These are some factors contributing to the U.S. labor shortages in the U.S. Of course, the first one is the aging workforce. There are a lot of people that decided to retire, and we don't have enough young workers in the U.S. to substitute them. So that's one of the big keys of the labor shortages. We have also, in recent years, a declining of national fertility rate in the U.S. We have seen that impact right now, and it's going to be more in the long run. And because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have two other factors. One was early retirements. People decided, because of the closure of the economy, they decided to stay at home and retire early. And of course, others, because they lost their jobs, they got some benefits from the US federal government, and they decided to wait for a better job with higher wage. And one important factor is the fall in the immigration. So first, I'm going to tell you about the shortages with some graphs, some data. This is the civilian labor force participation rate. It measures the number of people working or looking for a job related to the number of people that should be working. You can see that this rate has declined since 2009, and because of the COVID-19, we have this huge fall in the rate. But right now, we are still behind the trend that we used to have before the pandemic. In numbers, we can say that comparing February 2020, before the pandemic, with February 2024, we have around 0.9% difference. And if we multiply this by the total population that should be working, we have around 2.4 million missing workers in the US. So that's a huge amount. So we have a shortage. And this this of course has issues with the economy, putting pressure on wages, and because firms have to compete for workers. We know that. So one way is to provide a higher wage so that these workers can stay or attract these workers for their firms. And this can cause inflation. Another impact of this shortage is the supply chain disruptions. Firms are not working with the full capacity of workers. That means that they cannot provide all the goods that they want. So we have a problem, and these two are affecting negatively the US economy. Another way to see these shortages, we can have here job openings and the number of unemployed workers. You can see that before the pandemic, since 2018, we have more job openings than number of workers unemployed. You can see here, of course, with the COVID-19, we have this huge increase in number of unemployed workers, but after the recovery of the pandemic, we have more job openings than number of unemployed workers. Even if all unemployed workers decided to work, we have still a gap. Last year, it was around 2.3 million jobs fulfilled in the US economy. So I said about immigration that it was a problem it was a cause of the labor shortages. And here you have the net international migration to the US. Basically, that's the difference between immigrants and immigrants. And you can see that since 2016, this number has decreased, and we are still behind. So this is, of course, a factor that has affected the labor market in the US. So now, talking about some of the facts that people said about immigrants, you can see here again the civilian labor force participation rate, but you have two groups. One is foreign-born workers, and the other are native-born workers. You can see that people, immigrants, have a higher rate. That means that they are coming here to work. They are working or they are looking for a job. So that's a huge difference between these two groups. Now, I know that all of you know the importance of immigrants, but I want to point out again, US immigrants have worked in essential occupation for decades. We know that. Also, they are not a key driver for the US economy, but also for their home countries, like in Mexico with remittances. We have the importance of that. And these immigrants made up around 90% of the civilian labor force in 2033, I guess, yes. Now, we provide some numbers. This is given by the Fed, and it is a paper saying that immigrants and their children contributed more than 1/2 of workforce growth in the past 2 decades. The second is from George Borjas, and he said that around 11% of the GDP belongs to immigrants. So using that number, we can say that immigrants added at least $2.9 trillion to the US GDP last year. And finally, well, we can see that immigrants are responsible for around 36% of innovation in the US, and they represent around 1/4 of STEM workers in the US. This is a paper I did in 2022 about the economic impact of having fewer immigrants due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It was estimated by Giovanni Perry that around 2 million people working age immigrants were in the US between 2020 and 2021, and I found that the economic impact was around 1.1% of the US GDP per year. So it's a huge impact for the US economy. And now talking about sectors, healthcare depends on immigration. Around 18% of the workers are immigrants, particularly from Mexico and Canada. About the labor shortage in this sector, it is estimated that we will be short around 86,000 physicians in 2036. And talking about nurses, we are going to be short around 338,000 in 2036. Talking about manufacturing, we have the same problem of shortages. Around 2.1 million workers are going to be needed by 2030, and immigrants represent around 12% of the total workers in that sector. So we have in almost every single sector, we have shortages: agriculture, construction, hospitality, services, manufacturing, and so on. So now talking about immigrants in the US economy, they represent around 39% in the farming sector. Construction, they represent around 30%. Healthcare support, around 23%. And now the healthcare workers, I said before, 18%. So we have to understand the importance of this group for the US economy, and that this group could help to alleviate the shortages that we have.
Okay, so the conclusion: we need immigrant workers for the U.S. economy. Just a quick overview before Jose gives us his explanation of how immigrant workers come to the economy. Just a quick overview. So there's immigrant and there's non-immigrant. I think I might have missed. Yeah. So an immigrant that's also a permanent resident, they can come through certain family members. You can immigrate through the Overseas Refugee Program or through seeking asylum within the United States. There's a small number through the Diversity Lottery Program every year, and then the other way people immigrate is through employment. There are also non-immigrant status, students, visitors, these are just some examples, investors, and then, of course, there are also employment-based non-immigrant visas. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you for having me. Now, we're going to do just a cursory overview of different types of employment-based visas and the steps that we need to take to obtain them. Now, we're going to blitz through this. It is a complicated and nuanced area of law that involves multiple federal agencies. Some of the main ones are the Department of Labor, the Department of Homeland Security, especially the Citizenship and Immigration Services, which is the benefits branch of DHS, CBP, and also the Department of State, which has jurisdiction over the U.S. embassies and consulates abroad. Sometimes it takes getting authorization from 3 different government agencies before you can get one visa. And every case, just like every visa, is different, but the general steps to getting an employment-based visa is this, is you file a petition with the Department of Homeland Security. Once that's approved, you then file for a non-immigrant visa with the Department of State in the foreign national home country. Once that's approved, they present themselves at the port of entry, and when they're let in, they're issued a I-94. Now, an I-94 really is the controlling document in a foreign national status. It indicates your classification and your term of stay inside the United States. A lot of people think it's the visa. The visa really just gives you the ability to knock on the door. The I-94 is the controlling document. We will start with non-immigrant visas, and maybe the most notorious non-immigrant work visa of all is the H-1B. The H-1B is for professional workers. The basic requirement is this: if an employer is petitioning for a foreign national, they have to demonstrate that they have a position that requires at least a bachelor's level position and that the foreign national they're petitioning has that degree. The interesting fact is that there's only 85,000 of these issued a year. 65,000 are for bachelor's level degrees, and the other 20,000 are reserved for foreign nationals who have master's degrees from U.S. universities. Just to give you an idea of the demand, out of these 85,000 visas, just last fiscal year, there were 780,000 registrations just to get in the pool to try to get one of these. Now, these are employer and job specific, and they commence on October 1st of every year. Here's the basic process for applying for one of these. If you're lucky enough to be chosen for the CAP, the first step is to file a labor condition application with the Department of Labor. Now, that does several things. It ensures that the foreign nationals hiring won't affect U.S. workers within the company. There's no lockouts or strikes, and it provides notice for other workers within the company. It also requires that the employer pay what's called the required wage, which is the higher of the prevailing wage, which the Department of Labor determines just based on what the average wage is for that position in the area, and the actual wage, which is the wage the company generally pays. So after this is secured and certified, the next step is filing a petition with the Department of Homeland Security. And in a nutshell, it's proving that the employer has a position that requires a bachelor's level degree and that the foreign national has that degree or something in a closely related field. Once that's approved, the third step is to go to the Department of State and apply for a non-immigrant visa in the foreign national's home country. Now, if they're in the United States during step 2 in valid status, they can just switch over, but there's some exceptions to that. Similar visas are also H-1B1 visas, which are for people from Singapore and Chile, and E-3 visas, which are professional visas for Australians. So that is the professional side of H visas. Now, there are visas for non-professional workers under the H certification also, and that is the H-2A. Those are agricultural workers, your textbook farm workers. Interesting thing about them is there is no cap for them. So there's an unlimited amount of visas for them. They are temporary or seasonal in nature. H-2B visas are a little different. They are for workers that are non-agricultural. Think warehouse workers or hotel workers. Even truck drivers can qualify. So long as the need is temporary and the position is temporary, they can qualify. There is a cap for H-2Bs. It's $66,000 a year for the entire United States. The basic procedure for them is similar to the H-1B, except on the first step with the Department of Labor, they have to undergo a recruitment process, the employers do. Just basically showing that there is a labor shortage and there aren't sufficient US workers to occupy these positions. Once they prove that gets a certification, and then there is a petition filed with the Department of Homeland Security. Once that's approved, it goes to the Department of State where each individual foreign national applies for a visa in their home country. There's also different types of professional visas like the NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, TN visa it's called. And these are professional visas for Mexicans and Canadians. Similar to the H-1B, the employer proves they have a position that requires a bachelor's level degree at least, and that the foreign national has that degree. There is a nuance to that, because there is a list in the Code of Federal Regulations of the degrees that actually qualify. There's about 63 of them. These are issued for a period of 3 years. The way you apply for these is Mexicans apply at the Department of State through a consulate or an embassy, and then Canadians can apply directly at the port of entry with Customs and Border Protection. Why the difference? I don't know. It certainly makes it a lot faster and easier for Canadians, but that's what we have. Quickly, just other types of employment-based visas. We have treaty trader visas and treaty investor visas. These are what's called e-visas. They are, at least the E1 visa is for people that engage in commerce between their home country, the United States, a lot of import and export of goods and services. And then treaty investor visas are for people that come in, open a business in the United States, invest a certain amount of at-risk funds to do so. Those are good for 2 years at a time, but they can be extended indefinitely so long as the company's in business. There's also L visas, and these are for executives, managers, and people with specialized knowledge within corporations. For instance, if there's a corporation abroad that has a branch or a subsidiary or a parent company in the US, that's how these workers can transfer over to the US. And there's also student visas. Now, those aren't typical work visas, but once a student graduates, they get a term of employment, if they so choose. It's called optional practical training. They get a year after they graduate, and then if they're in the STEM field, they can extend it for another 2 to 3 years. All right, so that in a nutshell is non-immigrant visas. These are visas that are finite in terms of stay, right? They end, and once they end, the foreign nationals are expected to go back. We also have employment-based immigrant visas. These are green cards that employers can petition for their workers. For the most part, to get this type of visa, the employer has to show that there is a labor shortage. There aren't sufficient American workers to occupy the position. But there are some exceptions. For instance, we have priority workers. These are outstanding professors and researchers, multinational managers and executives, and then what's called extraordinary ability aliens. Extraordinary ability aliens, these are foreign nationals that are all the creme de la creme of their field. For instance, think of a basketball player who's an all-star, or an artist who's a Grammy Award winner. Other workers, under the work preference, there's certain special immigrants that don't have to undergo this process. Think of religious workers, right? Priests and pastors, and also special immigrant juveniles. Juveniles who are deemed wards of the state. And there's also the employment creation visas. These are people that come in and invest about $1 million into the United States, create 10 American jobs. So those are the exceptions. It's very hard to meet those standards. So for the most part, people with master's degrees and above, and skilled workers, which are people generally with bachelor's degrees, they have to go a process called labor certification in order to get a green card through employment. And this is where the employer, it's kind of like, well, the process is like the H-1B, but on human growth hormone. I was gonna say on steroids, but my kids say I'm stuck in the 80s, so it's like on human growth hormone. And the first step is proving that, number one, the required wage is going to be paid, and also that the appropriate recruitment was conducted. And these are steps the employer takes to prove that there's a labor shortage and no available U.S. workers. It includes placing a job order with the state workforce agency, and also placing 2 print ads in the Sunday newspaper of majority circulation in the area. And also 3 other mechanisms. It can be job fairs, radio ads, online ads. Once this is conducted and there are no viable U.S. workers to occupy the position, it gets certified. The case goes to the Department of Homeland Security for the filing of an immigrant petition, which is Form I-140. Once that gets approved, then at this point, the would-be immigrant applies through the Department of State at a consulate in their home country, or if they're in the U.S. in valid status, they can what's called adjust status inside the U.S. and get their green card inside the U.S. through USCIS. So that was just a blitz version of what's out there. The fun stuff will come later, but you'll see some of the issues that come from the system.
Okay, you're up.
Well, now talking about immigrants and some of the information that normally anti-immigrants talk about. At the Center for the U.S. and Mexico, when we decided to analyze with data and not saying, well, it's good or not, based on they are Mexicans, they are Chinese people, they are Chinese, or we try to put on the debate numbers. And the first one is undocumented immigrants are not a public burden. Texas Controller, we did that for Texas. Texas Controller in 2006 published a paper report trying to compare benefits and costs of undocumented immigrants on public services. So they found that there was a net state benefit of around $424 million in fiscal year 2005. Of course, that report was not very good for anti-immigrant groups, and what we did is to replicate that report in 2020. I based my methodology as the Texas Controller did, and I found again a net benefit, this time of around $420 million in fiscal year 2018. So I'm going to explain briefly how I got that number, but this tells us that undocumented immigrants are not a public burden. For every dollar spent on public services for undocumented immigrants, they provide $1.21 in fiscal revenue for the state of Texas. So here's how I calculate that. Cost, I basically estimated education, elementary school, and all of these until college, public college, healthcare, incarceration, and the total cost for undocumented, remember this is for undocumented immigrants, I estimated it was around $2 billion. Then benefits, revenue from sales taxes, utility taxes, school property, licenses, I got a number of around $2.43 million in fiscal year 2018. So the net benefit was positive, meaning that they are not a public burden. So now also I did economic impact. Basically what I did was to an exercise, a simple, well not simple, but an exercise of what would happen if Texas decided to deport all undocumented immigrants. And I found that the loss would be around $171 billion for the gross state product in Texas, a huge amount. And there are a lot of papers. There's one from a professor in Hinojosa in San Diego that they got the same result. From Arizona, he got also the same number. So at the end, from deportation. So we have to understand that these people are coming here to work. Of course, we have to secure the border. I understand that. And we have to understand that these people are coming here because they realize that firms in the US need workers. So it's a simple problem. I guess all of you have taken an economic class, and basically we have a market, supply and demand. Supply, workers need a job, firms need workers, you have to match them. And that's the issue that I want to point out here. Talking about other myths about immigrants, there are a lot of debate about if they are substitutes or not. And there are a lot of good papers. These papers, 2009 and 2011, are from Giovanni Perry and Sparber. And they found that immigrants and natives specialize in different types of tasks. And we know that. We can see, for example, in farming, Americans do not want to work there. And we need to take, as Jose said, we need to have workers there. So what's the way to get to have workers, undocumented immigrants, or like the H-2A visa? So that's the way we can fill those workers that Americans do not want to be part of that. So talking about Giovanni Perry's paper, he found that among college graduates, immigrants tend to specialize in more analytical tasks. Meanwhile, natives tend to specialize in more communications, intensive tasks. And among non-college, we have again two groups that specialize in different tasks. Immigrants tend to specialize in more manual tasks, and natives specialize again in more communication-intensive tasks. So that's a fact. And these complements help the economy to produce more, because you don't have to compete for the same work. They are going to move where there are shortages, and this will cause an increase in production for firms and, of course, for the economy. So now there are a lot of research about immigrants generally, that immigrants generally complement rather than compete with American workers. These workers have different skills and educational backgrounds. Again, talking about undocumented immigrants, the majority of them are high school, they have a high school diploma. Sorry. So immigrants help grow the US economy by filling labor needs, purchasing goods, and paying taxes. That's another reason why these workers are important. They also pay taxes, they buy goods and services. So, and also they are working. Thank you. Thank you. Also, lastly, I want to point out that research shows that immigrant workers do not earn the wages of Americans. And again, because they are complement, they are going to improve the US economy. There are a lot of papers. I put these two cornerstone workers papers. Well, the first one is a book from George Borjas in 2014, and the other one is from Ottaviano and Perry in 2011, and they found that wages are not earned by immigrants. On the contrary, wages stayed almost the same. The impact is not significant, but the production of the US economy increased. So,
maybe we'll talk later about your efforts to get these facts in front of legislators like Texas. I just am jumping in to add information from a new Health and Human Services study on the impact, focusing the economic impact on humanitarian immigrants and specifically refugees and asylees. So they took a 14-year span that they studied from 2005 to 2019, and these are the figures that they got. There was a $457.2 billion in government expenditures, 581 billion in contributions that these immigrants made to payroll, income, and taxes, and 124 billion net fiscal benefits, which includes the majority of which is benefits to state and local governments. Okay, so now Jose is going. Is this Jose here that we're talking about? Yes, this is you. About how this problems with the current immigration system.
Right, so how does the immigration system that we have impact employers, workers, and the economy? Well, I mean, it impacts people on a very basic level. First, filing fees, right? Economically, how does that impact employers and workers? Well, it's not free to file for a visa, whether it be a work visa or an immigrant visa. We talked a little bit about the H-1B visa, and this is just to give you an idea of what the filing fees alone are per worker. So this is after you get past the Department of Labor, and then now you're ready to file your petition with the Department of Homeland Security. And I put two side-by-side figures here just because filing fees went up effective April the 1st. So just to give you an idea, before April the 1st of this year, the filing fee for an H-1B visa was $460. There was a fraud fee of $500, an acquia fee of another $1,500. That's for companies with more than 26 workers now. And then a premium processing fee of $2,500. So we're talking about $5,000 to file for one worker, and these are costs that the employer eats, right? The employer is generally responsible for all these fees. And if it's approved, that covers you for 3 years. After April the 1st, the filing fees went up. You'll see the petition fee went up to $780. There's a new asylum fee that's tacked on to every case. That's $600. And the fraud fee and the acquia fee remain the same. Premium processing went up to $2,805. So we're talking $6,000, $6,185 for every H-1B petition that is filed. And they get a little bit of a break to extend the case, but it's pretty close to that when you go extend it. Now, mind you, these are solely government filing fees. Doesn't include the attorney fees. Both of these amounts are probably more than most attorney fees, but it's pretty close. Now, another example is just for a TN visa. Say somebody doesn't apply at the consulate. They change their status inside the U.S. The former fee was $460 and then a premium processing fee of $2,500. So it's about $3,000 per person. With the new fees, that goes up to $4,185. This is per person. This is every 3 years, not including attorney fees. The premium processing fee, for those that don't know, that's a fee that's optional, but it forces the government to make a decision in your case within 2 weeks. Right now, the processing times aren't too bad for this kind of petition, which would be an I-129, but in the past, they've been as long as 10 months. So, employers are, I don't want to say forced, but sometimes they're basically forced to pay the extra fee. So there's other external financial costs that aren't reflected in the filing fees also. For instance, if we're doing a labor certification, this is where a company is, again, petitioning for a foreign national to become a permanent resident. Well, there's fees tacked on to advertise, not from the government, but try putting an ad, a print ad in the Daily Star for 2 weeks. It's pricey, and those are kind of the hidden costs of applying for visas. If someone has to travel abroad to the consulate to get a visa, even though their petition is already approved, There's costs that come with that because you can't just go to any embassy or any consulate either. I'll give you an example. Like we were mentioning earlier, well, Mexicans have to go to the consulates to get a NAFTA visa. Well, not every consulate processes NAFTA visas. You have to go to Mexico City, Guadalajara, or Ciudad Juarez, and that's a pricey trip, right? It used to be you could just go to Nogales and get one, but it's not like that anymore. Processing times, which we'll touch on a bit, can be significant. And in business, time is money. If you have to wait 4 months to fill a position, you have to move resources around from other areas or miss out on opportunity because you don't have the personnel to take advantage of that. And it's also possible that companies can pay more to hire a foreign national than they would an available U.S. worker. They seek these visas because there is a need. Throw in attorney fees, filing fees, and the whole process just to get a non-immigrant visa and then try to transfer them over to an immigrant visa. A company can pay $40,000, $50,000 over the course of a few years. They'd much rather pay U.S. workers and save that money. The issue for them is that there's just not enough. There's also a risk factor. They're putting all this money into filing for these visas, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get them. I could file the same case 10 times, it may get approved 9 times, but that one time it's the same case and it doesn't get approved. I'll tell you kind of a horror story, at least to me it is, of processing NAFTA visas. In 14 years, I hadn't had a single one denied. And that's nothing I did. Most of those were relatively straightforward. So most attorneys got the vast majority of those approved. Well, came this last December, we had 3 of the strongest NAFTA cases I think we've had. We processed about 20 workers through the consulate. 17 got approved, 3 did not. And the 3 that didn't get approved were all denied by the same officer. And there's no course for appeal to that, but they were 3 of the strongest cases. They were watching their colleagues getting different officers at the windows next to them getting approved, within a couple minutes, and they were given the 3rd degree, even though their case was very similar, even stronger. So there's no guaranteed approval. The risk factor is high, and we mentioned processing times. Just to give you an idea, the Department of Labor, for different kinds of cases, say if I'm doing a prevailing wage determination for an H-2B case, that takes about 45 days. But now, if you're doing a prevailing wage determination on a labor certification, now you're looking at 8 months, and you can't move on to the next step until the first is done. Once you get to the USCIS level, the Department of Homeland Security level, most of the time you can pay for premium processing, so that helps. But then if you need an immigrant visa at the consulate, sometimes there's a 4 or 5 month wait, sometimes longer. Some of these e-visas, these are the treaty trader or the treaty investor visas, they're taking 18 months in some countries. So this doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, drawn out process. And I'll give you an example. If a company wanted to petition a foreign national for an H-1B today, first of all, the cap is done. So there's no available H-1B visas this year. So you have to wait until next year, which would be next March, before you can get into the registration process and see if you're chosen. And if you're lucky enough to be chosen and you're able to register your petition and it gets approved, well, now you don't get to start until October. So if someone wanted to petition a foreign national for an H-1B visa today, they're looking at 1.5 years before that person can start, assuming they get chosen for the cap. Labor certification, that takes even longer. Now you're talking the first step is the Department of Labor. You're waiting 7 or 8 months to get a prevailing wage determination. After that, you do recruitment, which takes a couple months, and then you submit for your labor certification, and that can be pending, if you're lucky, 4 months. It can be 10 months, even longer if there's an audit. Once that gets approved, you're already 1.5 years in, if not more. You go to the I-140 stage. That could be premium process. But then you have to wait for your priority date to become current, and that can take years, especially if you're Indian or Chinese. And if you're not, still another 6 months right now. And if you're not in the country already in a valid status, you have to wait for processing for your green card, which, depending on which country you're from, can take another year or two, or even longer. So you're talking about a multi-year process here. And that has an impact on business, that has an impact on workers, that has an impact on the economy. It's also a cumbersome process. These requirements, if you mark the wrong box on a form, you start back from square one, and you may have just completely altered a foreign national's life. It's a very unforgiving process. And it's also difficult to predict outcomes sometimes. You have the best case, but you get the wrong adjudicator or someone who just looks at the case different than most, who knows what they're going to do. Immigration policies are always changing, and that's one of the difficulties in this field. You never know what memo is going to come out, changing the way they look at cases. It's not so much that the law changes, per se, but it's the way they look and adjudicate cases that changes. I mean, it's akin to a law change, really. And that's difficult to stay on top of, and things can change from one day to the other. It really does, to practice in this field really does require training and experience, because the consequences for error are significant. Before I came into immigration law, especially business visa cases, I had 5 years of experience both in criminal law and civil law, and I was not prepared. Take me back 14 years ago, I wouldn't be able to put together an employment-based visa. It's just not happening. It takes a lot of training and experience to be able to do it. And also, the process undermines small businesses. First, in terms of cost, especially small businesses, they're functioning on razor-thin profits a lot of times. But aside from that, when you file a petition for a small business, and this is just my point of view, it's so much harder to get that case approved. If I have a company with 500 workers, that's one thing. It's hard enough that way. But if you have a company with 5 workers, the government tends to really, really look at that and just find ways to nitpick, if I could use those terms. And a lot to what Jose Ivan was saying, the supply just doesn't meet the demand. Employers hire foreign nationals, not necessarily because they want to, but because they need to. They need to fill that need for additional employees that they just don't have stateside. Again, the H-1B is an example. 85,000 H-1B visas, and there were 780,000 registrations. So.
So, a lot of very cumbersome process. I'm sure that you guys have ideas for how we can make things better. So we're interested in hearing those ideas, and we'll start with Dr. Rodriguez-Sanchez.
Well, yes, as Jose just described the TN visa, at the center we are trying to promote in 2026, the USMCA is going to review and revise. So we are trying to put pressure on the Mexican side and also here in the US to take the list. I'm going to show in a moment the 63 occupation that Jose said before. And the TN visa is a very good opportunity to bring workers here in the US. Of course, it has some drawbacks, as Jose said. For example, you can get a visa stamp. I used to have TN visa, by the way. And you can have a visa stamp as a Mexican. And then at the border, the official is going to review again your visa and your documents, and they can say you are not allowed to enter the US. It doesn't matter that you have the visa stamp. So it's double way to certify if a Mexican is good or not. In the case of Canadians, they only need the job offer, be at the border and check in, and that's it. So that's another problem with the TN visa, the discretionality that an official can have. Also, I have some people that, for example, they are not economists, but they are very good at data. So maybe in economics we have an econometric. Econometric is like using stats and all these to analyze data. So a mathematician can do that. But if the job offers economics, you need the firm needs an economist, and you are a mathematician, the official is going to say it's denied this visa. So that's a problem. I think that one issue with the TN visa is, and we are trying to put pressure on that, is that this list that you have here, maybe you need to update the first list, and maybe the description of some of these occupations could be improved. In the case of economics, you don't say what type of this area are you going to be. Maybe it's going to be for econometrics, as I said, or other areas. So, and also one point that we realize is that some of these occupations really do not need workers. Although some industries that these occupations are, they do not need workers. So one way that we are trying to put pressure is to update this list given the shortages that the US has right now. So that's something that we want. We want to, in some way, to maybe to expand this list, or maybe only to see what are the shortages and say, well, these are going to be now the new occupations that are going to be part of this list. You have here, you can see that in some way have some key sectors as healthcare, that's what I can see. Sorry, healthcare, and I don't see here, I have this problem, but anyway. So you have, for example, for agriculture, we have a meeting 3 months ago with farming saying we need vets, and we are asking for TN workers. And for some reason, as Jose said, there are only 3 locations, and they are denying these workers. So that's a problem. Why, if we can do it, if they need workers, why they can't come to the US? So, and now, as an economist, I like graphs. So you can see that the TN visa, these are some visas, of course. Jose pointed a lot of other major visas, but here we have H1B, H2A, H2B, O1, and the TN visa. So as you can see, of course, some of them have caps, but you can see that the 2 visas with the highest growth rates are the TN visa, that is this one. Of course, we have here a fall because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the H2A visa. But the H2A visa was the only visa that didn't decrease during the pandemic and during the Trump administration. Why? Because we need workers in the agriculture. So that's one issue that we have to understand. The US government knows that, but for some reason they are not using this visa. And talking about other solutions, well, we are trying to update this list for the TN visa. Could be, as Jose pointed out, the caps, the cost. For example, for the H2A visa, it's really costly for firms, particularly small firms, to bring workers here to the US. They don't have enough money to bring these workers because they have to pay a lot of fees. And also in some cases, well, Jose knows more than me of that, they have to hire brokers so they can know where they are in Mexico, particularly because 90% of the workers from H2A visa are coming from Mexico. So they have to see where they are, and they are going, of course, to, firms have to pay another fee for that. So at the end, I think that there could be some solutions for that.
All right, so possible solutions, in what ways can we improve the immigration system, especially as it pertains to workers here in the United States? I put in bold print adherence to burden of proof because I'm bald, because I tear my hair out because of that. Now, I'll give you an example. I've used this story hundreds of times, and I'll keep saying it because it keeps being true. When I worked as a prosecutor in criminal law, of course, the burden of proof to prove that a defendant was guilty, that someone committed a crime, right, is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the highest standard in law. There's no percentage to it per se, but say it's 90% probability that the person committed the offense. That's your burden of proof. Well, for a business visa, it is preponderance of the evidence. 50% plus a feather probability that the foreign national qualifies for the benefit. That's it. Much lower burden of proof. I wish I was exaggerating when I say this, but when I was a prosecutor, I had people indicted, tried them in front of a jury of 8 to 12, had them convicted, found guilty under the proof beyond a reasonable doubt standard, sometimes got them years in prison with less evidence than what it takes to get a business visa. These applications, when we submit them, they look like dictionaries. They're just full of information and proof, and I don't think it's necessarily the individual officers. I think it's probably a lack of training. It's easy for me to say because I've been in this field for a minute now. But adherence to the burden of proof, the preponderance of the evidence standard, would make a world of difference in probably the majority of cases. The system being what it is, and it's not perfect. I'm convinced they came up with the immigration system by putting a group of bureaucrats in a room with a pot of coffee, and that's how we came up with all these rules. But almost everything would be substantially better if there was more adherence to the burden of proof. And this can be done without congressional involvement, right? It's just interagency training, an interagency focus to really honor the law on the books, which is the preponderance of the evidence standard. Other ideas to improve the system, like Jose Van was saying, a removal or increase of the cap for H visas. Now that would require congressional involvement. There is only 85,000 a year. They have raised it before to, I don't remember the exact number, it was before my time, but I believe it was from 1990 to 1993. It was, I want to say 125,000, don't quote me on that, but they have raised the cap before. And this type of case, well, there's a need for it, that type of visa. It's no coincidence that there were 780,000 registrants for only 85,000 visas. And the visa already comes with built-in protections that benefit the American worker. They have to pay the required wage. And the required wage, I touched on this a little bit, but just so that we're on the same page, is this. So a prevailing wage determination, again, is what the Department of Labor determines a similarly situated individual in the area is to be paid, what the average of their pay is. For instance, if we have an engineer and the prevailing wage determination is $80,000, but the employer generally pays $90,000, the actual wage, well, they have to pay the foreign national the $90,000. And vice versa. If the employer generally pays $65,000, but the prevailing wage comes back as $80,000, well, the employer has to pay the $80,000, creating a situation even where they may have to pay the foreign national more. So there are protections for this type of visa, despite its notoriety. Other efficiency measures, consular processing that's required even though someone's already been vetted by USCIS. For instance, if someone gets a petition approved by USCIS and they're already in the country on a different status and they change to a different status, they're immediately able to work and live in the United States. But the second they leave the country, barring very few exceptions, they can't come back without getting a visa first. The question is why? They've already been vetted by the Department of Homeland Security. Why make them go through a similar process again with a different government agency when one has already approved their case? And it's not an issue of security, because that's understandable. See, every visa application, even at the consulate, comes with a fingerprint and a photograph where they run your background anyway. They could leave that, there's no problem with that. The delays come from them having to re-adjudicate the case. So could that be done without congressional involvement? I wouldn't say yes. I'm not 100% sure, but they used to do that prior to 9/11. And of course, 9/11 happened and everything changed. They're talking about, or actually they started doing that for, I believe it was H-1Bs in a very limited capacity, but it's been there before. That would make things more efficient and save a lot of heartache. Also, DHS processing. In my opinion, I mean, I think, and part of it goes to what Jose Ivan was saying, you get an approval, and then you show up at the border, they look at your case again without even having all the facts most of the time, and I think without the training to do so, and then they deny your entry. So an idea to make the system more efficient in a case like that, because they're happening more and more often, is to create a mechanism for a streamlined review of decisions by CBP and DOS. CBP, I think, could do it interagency. Right now, you can go to a supervisor, but it's difficult, and it's difficult to encourage them to really read up on their own rules and regulations. I've sent people to the border with printouts from CBP's own website, and well, usually the answer is, you expect me to read that? And when they do read it, they don't get it, and I don't blame them. There's difficult concepts, but that's why they need a different kind of mechanism for review issues like that, because they happen every day. Right now, if you switch into the Department of State at the consulates, if they deny a case, even if they're wrong, there's no way to appeal that. The remedy is to apply again, but of course, human nature, if you're working at the consulate and you see that one of your colleagues has already denied the case, who's going to overturn that? I mean, it happens, but it's just not all that common. So my proposal would be a mechanism to be able to appeal that kind of decision, or at least have it looked at in a quick way, and that would require congressional involvement. So those are the ideas, and I think we're going to open it up for questions.
And not only are you guys a wealth of information, but you are exactly on time, which means that we have a good amount of time for questions. I'm going to stop the screen share. Although I don't know that that makes us bigger. If somebody knows how to do that, I'll let you come up and do that. Otherwise, we will just go on. Are you seeing, I just want to check with Julia here, are you seeing questions in the chat?
No.
Okay, so now is the time, if you're on Zoom, to put your question in the chat. And then we're going to start with questions here in the room while people are typing their questions in the chat. But I will also mention that the Baker Institute, one of Dr. Rodriguez Sanchez's colleagues, Tony Pion, and our own David Gantz, Professor Gantz is here.
Yes, he's Professor. Here.
There, he's right there. Wrote edited a book called The Future of Trade, a North American Perspective, and there is a chapter here which deals with the proposed solution. But in there, they said, recommended a negative list, which is instead of a list of occupations where you could get the visa if you're coming in with this occupation, it would be that if your occupation is not on the list, you could qualify for that visa, which seems to me a very radical idea. But I'm not saying radical in a bad way, I'm just saying a very system-changing idea that I wanted to mention. Let's start, and I think you were first here.
My question was, you said that like professionals, like athletes or actors and all that, how do they limit that since it's such a small population? When you look at the Major League Baseball teams, I mean.
Okay, and so I'm going to have Jose answer the question, but repeat the question, and then answer.
Sure, so the question was, how do you limit, I believe it was immigrant visas for, I mentioned athletes and musicians. For those types of visas, to get a green card, you have to be basically the top 5–10% in the field. So for the example of a baseball player, they would have to be an all-star. So it's not that every baseball player qualifies, because there's different types of visas for athletes as well. But a green card, actual permanent residence in the United States, you have to be at the very top of the field. And there's only, a handful or two of those type of athletes in every professional league.
But also, for example, for the O1 visa, if you are the best, well, not the best, as an economist, maybe you have a lot of publications that are in top economic journals, you can apply for that visa. So that depends on the field. So in the case of an in economics, you can see what are the papers, the top journals, and they decide, yes, you can apply for an O1 visa, for example. But if you are not very good, of course, they are going to say, no way.
So Ivan, in case that wasn't captured by the microphone, is that in other fields, to get a green card where you're doing it, being the top in your field, you have to show your publications, recognition by other professionals in the field, etc. Okay, I have a question here.
Yes, thank you. First, Dr. Rodriguez, I wanted to thank you for having a myth section that addresses the flip side. That transparency helps to lend credibility to your pitch. My questions are for Mr. Vazquez. And I'd like to thank him for making it so simple, because those visas, I never thought I would ever understand them, and that was the first time I came close. So with respect to those non-immigrant visas, I understand they have caps, and it sounds like in all of those categories, the caps are reached and surpassed, and you're always going to be looking into the next year if you have a shot. And with respect to those, especially the ones subsidized by the employer, can those petitioners back out once they've been approved? Is that another risk that the employer carries? Not only the $5 grand, $6 grand, but then once they're on board 6 months later, they can move to another job for the rest of the 3 years. That's a big risk if it's included.
So just to rephrase the question first, are the caps reached in every type of visa? Well, when there's caps for visas, they usually are reached. Not every visa has a cap. For instance, an NAFTA visa doesn't have a cap. An H-2A visa doesn't have a cap. But other visas, like the H-1B, certainly they're reached every year. They have it for the past decade. H-2B visas are the same. The caps are generally reached. Now that's a good concern that was articulated also. Well, what if someone gets, for instance, an H-1B visa, and then they decide to back out? That is a risk that the employer takes on. Now, most of these visas are employer and job specific, so they can't jump to another employer or job unless they file an H-1B or a TN petition for them, but they can change employers, and it happens all the time, and that's absolutely a risk. And they're out that money. They don't get reimbursed for that. The even bigger risk is when someone is applying for a green card through employment. The whole H-1B on HGH. You can only work for the employer that petitioned for you when you're on an H-1B. But if you come out of the labor certification process and now you have a green card, there's nothing obligating you to stick with the employer. So there have been cases, it doesn't happen very often, but it happens, an employer can dump $40,000 into a foreign national, and then they get a green card, and then at the end they say, well, I'm going somewhere else. So that's a risk. Yeah, it doesn't happen all that often, but it happens, and it's absolutely a risk for the employer.
So remember, if you're here and you don't want us to point the camera at you, and you want to write down your question, I will read it, so just leave it. And Julia, how are we doing in the chat?
I don't see any questions.
Okay. If you're on Zoom and you have a question, this is your time to type it in. But right now we are open to more questions from the in-room audience. We're gonna go over here.
Thank you, Jose, for doing this incredible presentation. You too. My question is, if right now we're seeing an increase of people coming in, asylum seekers, people under humanitarian paroles, so those, they're already in. So how these agencies, they are so low in people that need work, can they reach out to the government, to the agency, say, hey, I need 100 employers to go and work in my hotel? How can we move that on? You know
So this is a great question about the asylum seekers who are being allowed into the country to pursue their asylum claims within the country, and the fact that there are all of these many people who need work. I will just interject here that it's not, you have to get a work authorization, and if you're an applicant for asylum, generally speaking, you'd have to do that by filing your application usually with the immigration court, and then you have to wait 6 months with that application on file before you qualify. And there are things that can stop that clock, so it's not like instantaneous. Also, some people are being allowed in with a non-status, but a condition called parole, and they can apply more quickly, right, for work authorization. But those complications. And then your question is, how do we match once people get the work authorization? How do we match them with the employers who need them? I don't know if either of you want to talk about that. I will mention that, or have something to say on that. I will mention that we had a speaker here before from the Boston Lawyers for Civil Rights, who suggested that that the government put resources into just that. To have, whether you have an office that does it, a personnel that's looking at matching, asylum seekers who have work authorization with employers who need workers, because right now we just don't have the infrastructure. So I don't know if you had anything to add.
Yes, just to echo what Lynn was saying, we really don't have the mechanism to do that. It seems like it makes too much sense to have that. There's other issues involved, but it would take a trailblazing type of change to institute something like that. But right now, we just don't have it. Like Jose Ivan was mentioning, they do have brokers for different types of visas, like H-2As and H-2Bs, maybe something backed by the government of some sort that could match worker to employer, but as of now, there's nothing that's there.
Okay, Zoom is being very quiet, but we have a couple of questions in the room. And we'll go right here, and then we'll wrap it up.
This is for Jose. This one. Jose was saying that they were bringing in these higher educated workers because we just don't have them, especially I think you were saying in STEM fields, and you were even saying something with family practitioners. We're short of family practitioners. Is that what you're
Can you come up and talking about? You're talking about in medicine?
Yeah, medicine. In primary care. You say that primary care worker, like primary care medical workers, we're low on.
Are we short? in the medical field, what, are we short in primary care physicians?
Well,
Is that your question?
Yeah.
for example, I was in a presentation at UT Tyler, West Texas, and rural areas have really a big issue on shortages on all workers in the healthcare sector. They told us that even before the pandemic, a lot of people that graduate from college, they don't want to go to rural areas. And after the pandemic, that problem was even worse. So that's a major issue in rural areas. That's a problem there. But of course, in all the country, we have still problems of physicians also. Of course, the most important part are, as I said in my presentation, nurses also, registered nurses, nurses that are in home care nurses also. So at the end, the healthcare industry is based on immigrants, and they need more based on what is happening after the COVID-19 pandemic. So I don't know if I answered your question.
That doesn't answer my question, but I didn't know if there is an argument be made that should we change our own infrastructure? Should we create more medical schools? Should we create more
Yeah,
schools?
indeed, there in Tyler, the president of the president of the UT Tyler was there, and he was telling the audience that they were going to incorporate at least 2 more bachelor degrees one in nurses and the other, I remember, that they were going to try to prepare students to try to close this gap between supply and demand in that sector. So I think that a lot of universities are now analyzing this problem, and they are trying to know which bachelor degree they have to in order to ease this shortage. But of course, that's going to be in the long run, not right now.
Okay, thank you. And I did say that we would end by 1:20. Did you want to?
Well, this had to do with working in the fields. Many things have changed. My father used to work in the fields in the 60s, 70s. He would follow the crop. Is that allowed now? Because you said they have brokers now.
Yeah, that's
You
to,
want to stand and we'll capture this. It's a farm worker related question, and then we're going to wrap up.
yeah, the brokers are to find workers when the employer doesn't already know them. The moving of crops, following crops, that's still in place. As long as they have H-2A visas, they can enter and exit the country also, following the crops. Yeah, so the term of stay remains there regardless if they enter or exit, so the visa still.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. You've been
Thank you.
terrific.